Hello, this is Angelia, and you're listening to or watching the podcast, Why You Do What You Do. The podcast talks about human development and psychology to help you figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about assisted reproduction, and we're going to take up on that again. A woman who is producing poor quality ova or who has had her ovaries removed may try ovum transfer. In this procedure, donor eggs, an ovum provided usually anonymously by a fertile young woman, is fertilized in the laboratory and implanted in the prospective mother's uterus. They're using someone else's eggs and getting it fertilized and, putting it in the mom, because, sometimes women have problems with the eggs. Could be a genetic thing, could be damage to the ovaries. Alternately, the ovum can be fertilized in the donor's body by artificial insemination. The donor's uterus is flushed out a few days later, and the embryo is retrieved and inserted into the recipient's uterus, and that's the mom who's going to raise it. In the United States, in 1998, 390 clinics offered IVF and related fertility procedures, and 81,889 were carried out, an increase of nearly 27% in just 2 years. And I'm sure it's even more than that now. However, the success rate was low, about 1 live birth for every 4 procedures done, and more than half of the procedures produced multiple births, with high risks for complications such as major birth defects and low birth weight. And this is what the people who are against this, complain about. But, like I said, if they didn't try this, they might never have a child of their own. And to some people, it's just that important to have a child of their own, 2 newer techniques with higher success rates are gamete intrafallopian transfer, or GIFT, and zygote intrafallopian transfer, or ZIFT, in which either the egg and sperm or the fertilized egg are inserted in the fallopian tube. And as we know, the fallopian tube is where the egg comes down and, it goes to the other one and then comes down into the womb. In surrogate motherhood, a fertile woman is impregnated by the prospective father, usually by artificial insemination. So, I've heard jokes about that. Men say, "Oh, I want to make it the natural way." Yeah, no, that's not usually how that goes. She carries the baby to term and gives the child to the father and his mate. Surrogate motherhood is in legal limbo. Courts in some states view surrogacy contracts as unenforceable, and some states have either banned the practice or placed strict conditions on it. And that's because they sometimes feel like an older couple might be taking advantage of a younger woman who's pregnant, or to get her pregnant. But some people do it while they're in college to kind of help pay for tuition and things like that. So you have to deal with that on the individual case by case. The American Academy of Pediatrics Committee on Bioethics recommends that surrogacy be considered a tentative preconception adoption agreement in which the surrogate is the sole decision maker before the birth, because it's her body, and sometimes surrogate mothers do decide to keep the child, and I'm sure that's very disappointing to the prospective parents, but it's her body and it's her child until she gives it away. The AAP committees also recommends a pre-birth agreement on the period of time in which the surrogate may assert her parental rights. Some people, they don't want the surrogate involved at all, and they make a contract with that. Some people let the surrogate come and, play with the kid, babysit for the kid, have some time with the kid. It's just all in what they agree to. Perhaps the most objectionable aspect of surrogacy, aside from the possibility of forcing the surrogate to relinquish the baby, is the payment of money. And now some people feel that you're buying a baby. But again, with closed adoptions where there's fees and money paid and things, same thing. People think, well, you're buying a baby. But again, if someone wants a baby bad enough, they're going to find a way to get it. The creation of a breeder class in poor and disadvantaged women who carry the babies of the wealthy strikes many people as wrong. And of course it is. I mean, I don't know if anybody's watched the Handmaid's Tale, but we don't want that to end up happening. So, a lot of people say this is not a good thing, you shouldn't do it. A lot of people say we need more regulation. A lot of people say that's between the surrogate and the parents. Stay your butt out of it, it's not your business. So, Similar concerns have been raised about payment for donor eggs for the same exact reason. Exploitation of the would-be parents is an issue, too. Because, like, there have been cases where a woman got paid to give up the child and then didn't want to give up the child, and then they said, oh, but we paid you X amount. She said, well, that pays for my care and everything. I don't have that money. I can't give that back to you. So, there's a lot of gray areas on this whole thing. And my advice is, if you're going to do this kind of thing, get a lawyer, have the other party present, and make sure there are contracts signed that are legally enforceable to cover yourself. There is no evidence of adverse cognitive effects from IVF other than those associated with the increased risk of premature or multiple births. Because, like I said, they fertilize more than one egg and, put them in there. Like I said, I know someone who's got twins, and there have been a lot of births, and sometimes they remove some of the children so that the healthier ones can survive, and that's the problem some people have with it. Socially and emotionally, artificially conceived children tend to be well adjusted. And of course, there's no difference between, being naturally conceived and artificially conceived. A sperm eats an egg, and there you go. That's why, I get in trouble sometimes with people because I say, man has free will, and so does the devil. I don't think every meeting of a sperm and an egg is necessarily something that was meant to be. And in fact, we were reading in my Bible readings not too awful long ago where Jesus made a comment to that effect. So, like I say, I get in trouble, but I just read the facts and repeat the facts. So, I might throw a little commentary in on it, but if the facts is the facts, then they're the facts. 2 longitudinal studies, one of 34 children conceived by IVF, but genetically related to both parents, and the other of 37 children conceived by DI, found little or no difference in socioeconomic development at age 12 between these children and naturally conceived or adopted children. And of course that makes sense, and I don't know why you would do a study on that, because they're in similar households, so I don't know why they even bothered with that one, honestly. One thing seems certain: as long as there are people who want children but are unable to conceive or bear them, human ingenuity and technology will come up with ways to satisfy their need. That's just a fact. People are going to get what they want, and they're going to do whatever it takes. So, it's better to have something and regulate it than it is to ban things and have people in the back alley rooms doing things on their own and dying, and it's just stupid. It's just stupid. Now we're moving on to cognitive development, perspectives on adult cognition, because remember we were into teen years and then the years of the 20s when a lot of people start having children. Personally, based on everything I've read and studying psychology, most psychologists recommend you get married when you're 30, pop those little people out between 30 and 35, and then you're done. And then you raise those little people. So that's where I stand on that one. Common sense tells us that adults think differently from children or adolescents. And of course, if you got some, it does tell you that. They hold different kinds of conversations, understand more complicated material, and use their broader experience to solve practical problems. Hopefully. Developmental theorists and researchers have studied adult cognition from a variety of perspectives, because that's kind of how psychology started. They want to figure out, well, how does this work? How do people learn? How do people figure stuff out? How's the brain work? So they've been studying this stuff since it's over 200 years now. So they might know a thing or two. Some investigators, such as K. Warner Shea, take a stage approach, seeking to identify what is distinctive about the way adults think, as Piaget did for children's thinking. So again, they're looking for, a map or layout or stages, and not everything is that easy. Not everything is that cut and dry. So, other investigators, such as Robert Sternberg, focus on types or aspects of intelligence, and that's become a thing here lately, talking about the different types of intelligence, overlooked by psychometric tests that tend to come to the fore in adulthood. Most psychometric tests are geared towards kids. There are more now geared towards adults. So again, if you think there's a problem and you want to get tested, go do it, because the only thing you have to lose is knowledge. Because if you take the test and you find something out, then you know what's going on and you can deal with it. Forewarned is forearmed kind of a thing. One current theory highlights the role of emotion in intelligent behavior. Like I said, there's some people in this world, they don't understand intelligent behavior. But, emotion and intelligent behavior don't always go hand in hand. Beyond Piaget, the shift to post-formal thought. So now we're into adulthood and people think, a little differently, and people expect you to be able to think, like an adult. Although Piaget described the stage of formal operations as the pinnacle of cognitive achievement, some developmental scientists maintain that changes in cognition extend beyond that stage. Because, of course, if you allow yourself to always learn and grow, then you will. According to Piaget's critics, formal reasoning is not the only, and perhaps not even the most important, capability of mature thought. So it's not just about being smart. Research and theoretical work since the 1970s suggests that mature thinking may be far richer and more complex than the abstract intellectual manipulations Piaget described. So again, it's not all about your IQ. For example, when asked whether there was the same amount of space in differently shaped houses made with the same number of blocks, one woman said no. When you start getting fancy, you always lose some space because you have to have a hallway upstairs as well as downstairs, which takes away space. So to her, that made sense. This apparently pre-formal response actually was the result of experience and nuanced thinking. So in her world, if you had a house with like no hallways like mine, you'd have to put a hallway in if you made the house bigger. But that's not necessarily true. You could take 3 feet off each room, or a foot and a half. Usually most hallways are about 3 feet, 2 feet wide, just depends, to make the hallway. But that's not what she described. So to her way of thinking, that would be the way it was done, and you would lose space. Thought in adulthood often appears to be flexible, open, adaptive, and individualistic. So as an adult, your thinking should be flexible. Your thinking should be open to more experiences. You should be able to adapt to different situations, and it should be your thinking. Don't buy into other people's thinking. It should be your thinking. It draws on intuition and emotion as well as on logic to help people cope with a seemingly chaotic world. And it basically is, the world is random. There's chaos everywhere. So you have to use your intuition. Men talk about women's intuition, but we're just a little quicker on the draw and can, take in and see a little more because we have 3 times the connections in our corpus callosum in our brain. So both sides of our brain, emotion and logic, talk to each other, whereas men have to shift gears. So we can use our intuition and our emotions and our logic to figure stuff out. It applies the fruits of experience to ambiguous situations. And again, the fruits of experience, to all you younger people, listen to your elders. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, if you don't believe they're right, that's fine. Let it go in one ear and out. But they have experience that you don't have. So, whereas you're just going into an ambiguous situation, they might have a little experience with a similar situation. So, feel them out on that. Ask them. It never hurts to ask. You might learn something. It is characterized by the ability to deal with uncertainty, inconsistency, contradictions, imperfection, and compromise. So a lot of the world, you're not going to be certain on how to deal with things. You're going to have to go in the situation and do what you think is best, and we all experience that. It's right here, uncertainty. Inconsistency. The world is not consistent. It would be nice if it was. Everything happened the same way all the time, but it doesn't. Contradictions happen every day. There's exception to every rule. They teach you that in school. Imperfection. Everyone's imperfect. Only Jesus was perfect, and he got mad once, so twice with the fig tree. So nobody's perfect. And if you hold people to a certain perfection level, which is an imaginary level in your head, because you're not that perfect either. So, you break your own rules on a daily basis. But you're going to have problems with relationships because nobody's perfect. And compromise. Again, if you're very unyielding and you don't compromise at all, and there's people who preach that, don't compromise. Well, guess what? If you're in a relationship with other people and you have to work at a place with other people, compromise is a skill that you need to learn so that you can go along with other people. You're not going to agree with everyone on everything. And it's like in, parenting class, I used to teach that it's not so important how the kid does the chore as long as it gets done. Because most of us were taught by our moms or grandmas, this is the way you do this. And so that's the way we want it done. Now, if they're making a total mess and not getting it done, you can tweak in there and say, hey, try it this way. Look, this is much easier. And they're like, oh, okay, because they're kids and they don't know. But, if they have a way that works for them, as long as it gets done, that's the good thing. And sometimes you have to learn to compromise with adults that way. Not everybody's the same. Everybody has the same experience or point of view or outlook. So in adult relationships, you're going to have to learn to compromise. And this higher stage of adult cognition is sometimes called postformal thought. That means thinking outside of the box, thinking more than what you get taught in school. So that's where I'm gonna leave you today. I hope this helped you figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. Please like and share this educational program so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. That's all for now. Until next time.